Oh, thank you so much, Maya, for that kind introduction. I am super excited to be here today, especially on such a special occasion on International Women's Day. And I'm actually connected to RSA in two big ways. So the first way I'm connected to RSA that Maya already mentioned is that my husband used to work here. And the second way that I'm connected is actually both of my companies, Pan Mandarin and Girl Strong, are insured by RSA through the commercial insurance division. I am not getting any discounts by speaking here today, but I did want to mention that because I thought that was pretty cool. So my name is Yolanda Zhang, and I know that on the slide I had put a lot of letters behind my name, and I didn't do that to brag. I really put that there to show you the different steps in my journey that I'm actually going to share with you today in the presentation. And before I start, I know that typically acknowledgements happen at the end, but I really want to make my acknowledgement early on. So I do really want to acknowledge the organizers, Sasha, Carolyn, and Maya, for putting together this amazing event. And I especially want to acknowledge Maya because she is really the embodiment of women supporting women. I met her a few years ago when she was working with my husband. And ever since then, we clicked and just stayed in contact. And she is always supporting me on LinkedIn, on social media, and whatever it is that I'm doing. And I really do appreciate it. And she's the reason that I'm actually here today as well. And I also want to acknowledge RSA for making a generous donation to my charity partner, especially at a time when charities and nonprofits are really being challenged for fundraising efforts and being able to carry on the work that they do. So I really appreciate that. So I'm going to kind of just share a bit about what I'm going to talk about today. So first, we're going to do a poll. So if Sonia could please launch the poll, I just kind of want to get a sense from the group how you feel about your mission in life. You know, are you feeling like you are crystal clear about your mission in life and what it is that you're meant to do? As an aside for our audience today, I know we have a bit of a different audience that I might be getting for my actual talk. So I'm glad that everybody is very clear about their mission. It's awesome. I hope that in my actual talk, people are feeling a little bit unclear as well. So at least my talk will be useful. So I'm going to first kind of discuss a bit about, one of my most painful secrets that really led to my greatest purpose. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to discover your mission in life. And even if you feel crystal clear about your mission, maybe there are things that you can add on or things that you can take out that could further give you more clarity and direction for you. And then I'm going to share a few next steps because obviously a 1-hour talk is not going to give you everything you need for clarifying your missions in life. It's a big task. So I'm going to share a little bit about what are some of the next steps that you can take. And then hopefully we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. We may not. And if we don't, I really invite you to connect with me personally. I'm really always happy to answer any questions you have. And at the end of the presentation, I will leave my contact information for you as well. So it looks like our audience today definitely has a pretty good grasp on their missions in life, which I'm very happy to hear. So before I start, I want you to keep in mind these 3 things. So some of the things that I'm going to be sharing today really are things that I'm sharing from a very vulnerable place. There are some things that I have not shared publicly, especially not to an audience this size. So I want you to keep that in mind, that it is from my own personal experience. And I also don't claim to have all the answers to all kinds of mental health challenges. It's really very specific to me and to my own experience. And I would invite you to please keep an open mind and to participate as much as possible. We will have opportunities for you to put information and share in the chat room. So I really would want you to take those opportunities and do that. And to have a notepad and a pen as well, because there will be activities where you're going to jot down ideas that are specific to you, which will be great for you to kind of work together with me. You know, it will be more of an interactive session that way. So if nothing else, keep an open mind to what I'm about to share. And I want to just also share one of my favorite quotes and what gives me a lot of confidence in sharing so vulnerably. I was listening to a great podcast between Oprah and Brene Brown. And as many of you may know, Brene Brown, a lot of her research is around vulnerability, around shame. And it was just a great talk between these two thought leaders. And Oprah said this one quote, and I jot it down and I actually keep it in my agenda, which is that vulnerability is the cornerstone of confidence. And I am a living example of that. So when I felt that I needed to keep my secrets in, or my whatever I'm ashamed of inside and not share it, I am definitely not as confident as I could be. And ever since I did share my secret, which I'm going to tell you in a little bit, I have never felt more confident, and I've never spoken to people with more like honesty, vulnerability, transparency, and it just feels amazing. So I do want you to think about that as well. So this is the place that I am sharing from today. It's a place of vulnerability, but it is definitely the cornerstone of my confidence. So I'm not going to keep you for the entire presentation to share my biggest secret. I'm going to share with you at the very beginning. And so for me, my biggest secret that I had to keep for 20 years is that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Actually, shortly after that photo was taken, I took a trip with my parents back to China, which is where I was from. I came to Canada when I was 10, and this was the first time my parents and I went back to China together. And right after I had returned back to Canada, I fell into this really deep depression. And I was in university. I was studying engineering at the University of Waterloo. I was in my second year, and I didn't know what hit me. I had always been this outgoing, friendly, high achieving kid. And I never really experienced anything like this before. I couldn't get out of bed, and I wasn't going to class. I just wasn't sure, and I couldn't even cook for myself. My roommates were my good friends, but when I told my mom what I was going through, and my mom has dealt with depression for, much of her life, she said, "Oh, you can't tell anybody, like don't tell your roommates." And I said, "I'm going to fail. Like I'm going to fail engineering. I can't go to class." And I was like, maybe I need to talk to my university. And then she was just like, no, you can't tell anybody. This is really not something that you should share. Everyone's going to look at you differently if you do. And really, she did it out of love. Like she really felt that this is a shameful secret that she was trying to protect me from, and protect me from the world. And so, from that experience, I concluded that there's something wrong with me, something seriously wrong with me, and that I was definitely broken, because I can't even share this, with my roommates who are my friends, and I can't share with the university, and maybe I will fail, engineering. And so kind of, going back a little bit in my life before, really understanding what getting sick meant, like being depressed, I had always had a pretty smooth ride in life. So I thought. Um, and I always had a lot of love and support from my parents. And all of those happened. And I thought, I must be the weak one then, if I were to get sick. Like, kind of like, who am I to get depressed? Like, I have such a great life. But, what I didn't realize is that I did have traumas in my life that really affected me. And even though they are not these sensational incidents that you hear about on the news, but they do have a lasting impact on a person. So I'm going to talk a bit more about this later, but I really did have to harbor this secret for a very long time. And it wasn't until last year that I felt brave enough to write an article about my experience. And then I shared that article, and the response was definitely very overwhelming. So that's my biggest secret. I hope you're going to stay for the rest of the presentation, even though I gave you the biggest part now. So later on, there are some steps in my journey that really were results of my diagnosis. So after engineering, so I did complete engineering, even though I don't even know how I did it. Like, seriously, I was just like, how did that even happen? Like, I had to miss so many classes, but I actually think that bipolar disorder helped me to complete the things I needed to complete, because it also gave me the energy to catch up, when I needed to. So when I finished engineering, I got recruited by GE in one of their commercial leadership programs. And people always joke that in my year, I was the chosen one, because they choose one undergrad every year to be part of this program. And, I really can't thank GE enough for choosing me and giving me the opportunity to learn, to train there. It's really an amazing experience. But during that time, actually, just about a month after this photo was taken, when we met Jack Welch, I was attending the largest global healthcare tech conference. And at the conference, I had what now I know was a panic attack. And I was so worried that people are going to find out that I have some kind of, mental illness, and that I was going to be fired or kicked out of the program. So I didn't tell anyone, but it was a very scary experience to deal with on your own. I was in Chicago at the time. And the funny thing is, at the end of this conference, I ended up getting the Client Support Award. They choose one person from all the leadership programs who demonstrated the best support for, the clients on the floor. And it's just really interesting how I saw myself as this weak, broken person with this, painful secret I had to keep, and what other people saw was totally different. And I did end up leaving GE. And when I did make that decision, it was using this weighted pro-con list to help me make that decision, because obviously it was a very difficult decision to make. And when I put that list together, I realized that my health was one of the top 3 reasons that I had to leave GE, because I didn't feel like I could disclose what I was going through, and my travel schedule, the demand on me, like, I just didn't think that was really good for my health. And looking back, I wish I had the courage to speak up, and maybe there would have been other opportunities for me in the company. My mentor at GE is actually now the general manager of the entire healthcare business. And I know that if I had talked to her earlier about this, other things could have been done. But for sure at the time, I just didn't think that it was possible. I just thought, if I told somebody, then I would be definitely seen as this, weird person, or people were going to look at me differently. And I just didn't want that. So, but that was definitely a step in my journey, because from GE, I ended up realizing that what I want and what I need in life is a feeling of being helpful to others. And I've always thought about teaching, and I've always thought that eventually I'm going to teach in some capacity, but maybe I need to like milk my engineering degree for a little bit longer because it was really hard to get. Um, but because of my health, because of bipolar disorder, I realized I'm going to make that step earlier. And so the next step in my journey was becoming a teacher. So I became a high school teacher teaching math and physics. And in the photo here, the reason I chose this picture is, as many of you know, that building is no longer standing. So I thought it's kind of special that I took a group of my co-op students to RSA for a tour. And we took a picture in front of the former RSA building. And it was a job that really gave me a sense of purpose, because I taught in 2 schools in the course of 7 years, and both schools were in underserved communities in Toronto. And in that time, I never regretted my decision to leave GE, even though the pay cut was significant. But it's really because of the difference that I was able to make. And I still actually keep in touch with several of my students from my teaching days. And this was something that really gave me that sense of purpose. But the biggest change actually happened a little bit later and took me on an even different path. So that is when I became a mom. And I had, oh, you can see my daughter, my husband and my daughter my husband is holding my daughter in this picture. So that's the guy that used to work at RSA as well. So when I became a mom, a lot of things changed for me as well. And I took a huge leap of faith to be a full-time entrepreneur. And I started a Mandarin school so that my daughter can have the opportunity to learn Mandarin and stay connected to her cultural heritage. And that kind of also goes back to how important family is to me as well. And in this picture, you can see my daughter, my husband, and my team. And we have been very fortunate to have been featured in many different media outlets, just because of the difference in my journey in getting here. But also, Panda Mandarin teaches Mandarin in a very different way. We're very much focused on fun and engaging and really student-centered, as opposed to just cramming them with more and more information. And then 3 years ago, I launched a not-for-profit called Girl Strong. And the reason that happened, I'm going to share a little bit later as well. But Girl Strong really became that missing piece of the puzzle for me, because starting Panda Mandarin, it was great for my family, great for my community, but and it fulfilled my purpose of teaching. But I always thought that, even if the kids who attend Panda Mandarin didn't learn Mandarin, I feel like their lives would still be great, because we were servicing, a specific demographic and different community, specific community or communities in Toronto. And so the missing piece of the puzzle for me is really that true sense of purpose, where I know that what I do is going to make a difference. Because when I was teaching in the underserved communities in Toronto, often I'm the only adult that really cared about that student's math test or math score, because his or her parents might be working 3 jobs and like around the clock, and not able to really be there for their children, even though that they wanted to. So I am it. I really felt that responsibility of being it. Like I'm there to really carry the weight of their academic success. And I actually really like that responsibility. I really took it seriously, and it meant a lot to me to be in that role. So that's where I think Girl Strong became the missing piece of that puzzle for me. Our focus is on young girls from 6 to 12, and we empower them through public speaking, entrepreneurship skills, positive mindset, growth mindset, and developing strong relationships. We're also the only program in Canada that is licensed by Franklin Covey to offer the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that today as well, actually. So that was really important to me. And that's how I found kind of my missing piece of the puzzle. So I said earlier that I'm going to share with you kind of how Girl Strong came about. And I really believe in this concept that the dots only connect when you look back, and it's fuzzy when you look forward. And that definitely is true for me. So 3 years ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And that picture there was taken 3 months before she passed away. And as soon as I found out the news, I took my daughter to fly to China to visit her. And one of the reasons I did that is also because my grandmother raised me from birth to when I was about 3.5. So I didn't know my parents at all. My dad was pursuing his PhD. My mom was a pediatrician doing her like pediatrics rotations. So they just weren't able to really look after me the way they had wanted to. So my grandmother was the person that I thought was my mom. And when I was almost 4, it was when my parents came and took me away, but yeah, they came and they picked me up. And it caused a lot of attachment injuries and a lot of trauma for me. Even though, I was never abused, I was always loved and supported, but nobody explained to me actually what happened. It was just that I just was taken away. And I wanted to, so that definitely gave me a lot of knowledge about intergenerational trauma. It gave me a lot of knowledge about, researching into how to recover from attachment injuries. And these are all part of kind of my recovery journey as well. And hoping that my daughter is not going to be going through the same things, because these kind of traumas do pass on from generation to generation if you don't deal with it. And then if you kind of look at the picture on the right, where this kind of comes in is that even though I have had a fairly great upbringing, childhood, parents who are well educated, very, very much dedicated to my well-being, I could still go through these challenges. And when I think about the girls that we work with in the communities, in the underserved communities, it makes me think, well, if there are no extra support for them, then what could their lives be like? They're really going to repeat what has happened with their moms, with their grandmothers. And I've taught girls who were teenage mothers and who've gone through abuse. And even for myself, when we first came to Canada, I was 10 years old, and we lived in a very challenging neighborhood, like it was St. Jamestown. And I was sexually assaulted at age 10. But I had a lot of support, from my parents to kind of overcome that trauma. But I also didn't really process it maybe the way that it needed to. And so girls in these communities where their parents were also assaulted and they might be assaulted, it's just really hard to recover from those traumatic experiences. And I just didn't want their lives to be damaged as a result. And I wanted to give them as much support as possible. And this is actually one of Carol's events at one of the women's networking events. We brought our girls who were part of our Girl Strong program, and they created their own businesses. And the two girls there created a cake pop business. And before going to the event, they said, oh, no one's going to buy this. Like, why would they buy our product? And they just innately felt so much, so little confidence in themselves and what they did. And I said, I guarantee you, we're going to sell out. Like, trust me. And I mean, I didn't know that for sure either, but I just thought for sure, like, why wouldn't we? And sure enough, within an hour, the girls sold out of all of their cake pops. And it was just the pride in their faces was just so amazing. And definitely I want to acknowledge Carol for hosting these like incredible events and bringing women together. And it's really about women supporting women. And in this case, it's like women supporting young girls and really showing them what they are capable of. So that's kind of summarizing like my journey up until this point. And it really helped me to gain clarity on my own purpose and mission statement. So for me, my mission statement for life is to be a loving mother, partner, a lifelong learner, and live a balanced life, one that is authentic, connected, and making a positive impact in the world. So this is what I live by. And this is printed, put in my bedroom, in my dining room, it's in my planner. Basically, anywhere I need to be reminded of my purpose in life, I see it. And all the dots really connected for all the things that I went through to help me create this mission statement. And that's what we're going to do today before you go, is to get your mission statement for life started. And often, people say you buy a product not because of what it is, but why it's there. So Simon Sinek is one of the key thought leaders in this area about the why. And so for me, when I'm clear about my why for Yolanda, I can be clear about my why for Panda Mandarin and for Girl Strong. So just as an example, this is my mission and vision statements for Girl Strong. And you can see how closely related it is to my own personal mission statement. So our mission is empowering young girls everywhere to become limitless women. And our vision is that every girl fully realizes their own incredible potential to live an unstoppable life they dream of without limits. So unless you are clear about who you are, who you represent, and what is important to you, it is really hard to lead a team with a clear vision, a clear mission, or to own a business and lead a business with the same kind of clarity. And I know some of you are leaders of teams, leaders of departments, and having that clear vision and mission is really important for the rest of your team as well. So today's exercise is about you, but it's really going to help you to get that clarity for the rest of your team as well.
Yolanda,
so
I'm
also going to share 3 key things that I have learned along the way. And with it, there will be some stories that hopefully will give you more clarity about missions and visions and what you do to get more clarity. So the first thing I wanted to share is that I have completely changed my perspective on mental illness through my own experience. Even though how it hits me or how I experienced it is that I have cyclical depressive episodes, which tend to usually be well managed, but I'm going through a period right now where I'm still having these episodes. And I remember lying in bed, feeling really, really crappy and talking to my best friend on the phone saying, why is this still happening? You know, this is so unfair. I'm really upset about all of this still happening. I think this was about 3 years ago. No, not 3 years ago, whenever the next part of the story will come up. And so he said to me, he's like, I know that you're not really into politics, but I just have to share with you that I just watched the closing statement of Elijah Cummings at Michael Cohen's hearing. And I was like, what? What's happening? I don't know them, but okay. And then so he said, you know, one of the things Elijah Cummings said was, you really need to understand when bad things happen to you, don't ask the question, why did it happen to me? But ask the question, why did it happen for me? And then my best friend doesn't always say such wise things, but I really, in that moment, had this huge light bulb come on, because bipolar disorder, you know, is definitely considered an illness. But for me, I know that it almost manifested in my body to protect me from myself, because I am such a high achiever. I don't know when to stop. And the only time I slow down and stop is actually when I get hit with a depressive episode that could last anywhere between 5 to 10 days. That's when I actually take a break. So I feel like this illness is almost showing me how much I need to learn about self-care, how much I need to slow down in order to prevent possible more severe illnesses that could come into contact with me in the future. And for me to really learn better ways of living life and make better choices, whether it's with careers, whether with people, whatever it is, or being better at saying no. Even having this experience with this disorder has really taught me all of those things. And I'm still learning, because it never really stops. The learning never stops. But it is really what is happening for me that I look to every time I hit a dip. And it's frustrating for sure, because I need to slow down. I can't do all the things I want to do. But I do look more now within and think, okay, what is it this time that I need to learn? You know, what is it that I really need to internalize and understand that I didn't know last time that this happened? So this is from Elijah Cummings. And I really highly recommend that you Google this and actually watch him say it live, like watch him say it himself. And it was really touching. So the second thing that I learned from this experience is about intergenerational trauma, which I touched on earlier. Because sometimes, you know, I really feel like when I'm talking or arguing with my husband, I am talking through my mom, my grandmother, even my great grandmother. Like I'm hearing their voices or what they've said to me in the past, and I'm saying it. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like my mom. And the reason that is happening is because I've actually inherited all of the stuff that they didn't get to deal with themselves in their lifetime to me. And the other interesting thing that connects the three generations of women is my grandmother was not raised by her mom. She was raised by her grandmother. And my mom, when she was very young, she had to go into the rural, like it's part of the political climate in China where all the people in the city, their children had to go into the rural areas to learn about, you know, farming and so on. So she had to do that. And then, so for me, I wasn't raised by my mom. So it's interesting that the three generation of women, inadvertently had very similar experiences with attachment and abandonment, and all of those issues came up. And my mom and my uncle, were the only ones amongst my grandmother's kids that experienced mental health issues. And they're the only ones that did not stay with her when they were young. So often these things trigger us in ways that we may not know. And this year, the International Women's Day's theme is choose to challenge it. And I thought this is the perfect place to mention that, because you have a choice. I know this picture is used a lot for COVID, like don't spread COVID, but you also could choose not to spread the intergenerational trauma that is within your family. So the way I'm choosing to challenge it is I'm choosing to seek treatment. I am choosing to speak about it. I'm choosing to share about my experience. And I'm also choosing to make sure that my daughter knows about all of this, and for her to know that it's not a shameful secret, and that it's okay for us to talk and share. So the last thing I wanted to share, it's about children as well, is that, our kids are really our mirrors and our inner child. And what we need to deal with is really not for us. It's also for our children and for everyone that's around us. So really to understand that self-care is not selfish. And sometimes we need to take time for ourselves first before we can take time for others. And I know this message is not new, and this is something that you have heard over and over again, possibly, especially during this pandemic. But I want to be another person to remind you that if we are okay, our kids are okay. And our well-being and our mental health is really mirrored in our kids. So make sure that you focus on yourself. And I just wanted to share a quote, another one of my favorite quotes, before we get to the mission statement exercise with everybody. And I know that when you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna, today in like half an hour, create my own mission statement for life, that just seems like a lot. Yeah, it does. But you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. So I invite you right now to take the first step with me, if you haven't yet done work on your mission statement. So here I want to share that I read this book for the first time, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, around 18 years ago when I was still working at GE. And I remember reading about creating your mission and thinking about what do you want people to say in your eulogies. And I thought, oh, I don't really want to do that. That's just, I already, I just felt like I already know what I'm doing, or I don't need to know this. This seems like it's just really dark. It's so depressing to think about. And I didn't feel like doing it. And so I didn't. I did read the book though, but I didn't do the actual exercise. And so when I read it again, before starting Girl Strong, I realized how valuable and useful those exercises are. And I actually did do them. And that's how I came up with the mission statement that I shared earlier. So I want to go through these questions, and hopefully you have a notepad and pen nearby. I just want you to start jotting down some ideas. And often what comes to your mind first is really what is true for you. And you may not need to think for hours and hours about it or meditate on it or whatever to get the right answer. So the first question is, what would you want to have on your epitaph? So if you were to imagine, your tombstone, because I did look into that, I was like, what is an epitaph? So your tombstone, what would you want to have it written there? So for me, so as I'm talking, if you could write down a few ideas. So for me, I wrote down that here lies Yolanda, a loving mother, wife, and someone who left the world a little bit better. So that was my epitaph. I was like, it's pretty simple. I mean, every word you engrave costs money. No, just kidding. But yeah, so you want to think about like how much it can fit. You're not going to write an essay, but just how would you summarize yourself in one phrase? And if you find, thinking about epitaphs or tombstones to be too dark, another way to think about it is, what if your life was a movie? What would be the tagline of your movie? What would that be? So depending on how you relate best, whether it's really the end, because habit 2 and all of these habits are what we teach our students, our girls in our program. And any of the girls that go through our program have to create their own mission statement for life, because when we get to habit 2, we teach them about the importance of planning ahead and having this end in mind. It's like having your GPS, knowing where it is that you want to go. So whether coming back, so whether it's your epitaph, your tombstone, or you want it to be more about like your movie or your theme song. So what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you? The second kind of question you can ask is, what would you want to hear in your eulogies? And in this case, you would need to divide it into groups of people. So if you imagine, let's say, like in 3 months in the book, like, so in this book, they actually say you're going to die in 3 months and you're going to be attending your funeral. It got pretty dark, but it was a good kind of like hit in the head, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die in 3 months. And these are the things that people are going to say. So what would you want to hear from your immediate family, from your friends, from your coworkers, from your, like, your neighbors, like, so they kind of got into different groups of people. I'm kind of giving you a bit of a live book report here, but it was a really great exercise to do. And I want you to write that down, like eulogies, loved ones, immediate family. What do you want them to say about you? What are some of the words that are really coming to you, in a wave that is really showing you that that's what you need and what you want? And then for the third one is, what would you like people to say at your 80th birthday? So let's say you live a really long, happy life, and you get to your 80th birthday. What are some of the things that you would love to hear at your birthday party, when they're wishing you a happy birthday, or when they're making a speech about your life and you're celebrating your birthday? Who's there? Like, who's with you at your 80th birthday? And what are the people saying about you? So I want you to write down all the words that come to mind, phrases that come to mind, and people that you are envisioning to be there with you until the end. So it's really, really important that you walk with me through this exercise, one step at a time. So just to kind of reiterate, this was my mission statement for life. And when you look at what was important to me, maybe you can also pick out words here that are important to you, or it could spark some inspiration for you where you realize, oh, that is actually important to me as well. Or another way of saying, you might want to be a loving partner, but maybe lifelong learning is not important, and that's totally fine. Or maybe you want to be connected, but you want to be connected to specific people. So you want to really make sure that when you read your mission statement, it is very clear what it is you're envisioning for the rest of your life, and what you're envisioning for your 80th birthday, your eulogy. So they all combine to put together your mission statement. And just to help you a little bit further, I want to do a little bit of a think and share. And if you're not comfortable with sharing, at least write it down on your in your notepad or your paper. So I want you to write down 3 words, whether they are feelings, goals, or the end in mind that you really want to include in your mission statement. And, it's not written in stone, so it's okay if you change it later. But just for now, I just want to see if you have some ideas. And I would love for you to put it in the chat room as well, like your 3 words. What are those 3 words that really are jumping out at you, that are very important to you? Is it love, connection, health, like anything that really are coming to you in a way that you feel is important? Please make sure that you put that down. And then the second step is think about 2 roles in life that are the most important to you. And, if you're not a parent, is being a partner or a friend very important to you, or somebody in society that makes a difference? If you are a parent, is being a parent very important to you, or being like a sibling or a child? Anything that you feel like the 2 roles that really are very important to you, or the most important to you in life. If you could write that down, and then if you feel up to it, share in the chat room, that would be really great. And then finally, you can do this on your own. You don't have to put it in the chat. Is how are you thinking of linking them together? If you have some ideas about whether you want to put them into sentences or paragraphs. I actually know somebody who wrote a poem, which is their mission in life. That's like pretty cool. So whatever way you want to do it, we're actually having a contest for mission statements. So I'm not just making you do this just for fun, but you're also might be able to get a prize at the end as well. I'm going to talk about that next, but I want to make sure that you do walk through these steps and help you create your mission statement. So speaking of the contest or the prize, I didn't want to leave you just like this, after one talk and then I never see you again. So that's why I decided to run a vision board workshop, and it's going to be on March 11th. So it's this Thursday from 12 to 1. And the way I see it is we need to strike while the iron is hot. And we're going to pick 10 participants from today. And it's a competition through the mission statement. And you're going to email it to this email address. Maya is going to put it up. And what you're going to get is a spot in this workshop. So we have 10 spots. And then for more people who want to join, you can absolutely join by making an optional donation to our charity partner. And I'll send you the information with that as well. So the value of the workshop is $125 per person. So it's really worth your while to make sure that you get your mission statement done. And the workshop is meant to help you create your vision board so that it's making your mission statement come to life and come to fruition. So after you have done your own mission statement, it's always a good idea to get the family together. If you have a family, to create a family mission statement or a team mission statement. So these are all really great things to do once you have clarity about your own mission. But don't do those things until you have your own mission statement done. And some of you might think, well, so what if I have this statement? How is that going to come true? You're right. It does take some more practice, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly. It could be in the form of the vision board, which I'm going to show you. And it's made a huge difference in both my professional and personal life, made a lot of things happen that wouldn't have otherwise happened. And I'll explain what that is. But having planners, using journals, and I'll share some of those tools at the workshop as well. And having regular gratitude practice, meditation, mindfulness, these are all things that combine to help make your mission statement come true. But don't feel overwhelmed about it, because I didn't do all of those things all at once. I kind of took pieces and started slowly building up my own practice. And I'm always here to be a resource for you as well. I do coach clients as well. And this is something that I can help you too, if that's something that you need. And just to kind of share with you what the vision board looks like, this is going to be the finished product of what you have. So on the left is my vision board that I created for this year. And I always have a word of the year. And this year, my word is freedom. And this vision board is actually in my bedroom and is also in my dining room, where the two places that I am at the most. And it's really a great way to have constant reminder. And then, of course, I get my families to do it as well. So we do a family vision board as well. And our word for the year for our family vision is balance, to have more balance. And I think that it's such a great bonding experience, but also something that you do together to move your family forward. And last but not least, I would love to hear any questions, and I would love to hear any questions and love to connect with you either on LinkedIn, Girl Strong, Pen and Mandarin, and you can email me at yolanda@wearegirlstrong.com. Also, I'm going to be offering a free half-hour coaching call for anyone the first 3 people that leaves a LinkedIn review for me. And I feel like this is a win-win for both of us. If this is something that would be helpful for you, it's definitely helpful for me. So yeah, so any questions, please feel free